And I'll just bring the microphone over to where she is, and she recorded, I think she recorded pretty much every vocal for the entire album sitting on my bed, like with her legs crossed, which is kind of insane.
Hey everyone, my name is Chris Green, and in today's video, I'd like for us to talk about acoustic treatment. Now, I've got several videos from professional audio engineers and professional musicians sharing their take on acoustic treatment and whether it might actually be a waste of your time and also waste of your money. Now, of course, there's many controversial things that I'm going to be sharing, but I hope you watch this video all the way to the end so that you really get an understanding of where I'm coming from, because the whole purpose of this channel is that we make and record more music. So whenever I think about acoustic treatment, at least it's been in my case, that acoustic treatment has often been a roadblock and something I've made excuses about rather than something I've been able to master and get over. So it begs the question, is acoustic treatment the rabbit hole that you need to be going down? And we're covering that all in today's video. So as you can see, I am in a home studio. Now this is a bedroom. I've actually documented the process of going through and trying to acoustically treat this space. In fact, I've got a video here that was uploaded a year ago. And basically in this video, I'm going through and setting up everything from scratch. So I've got drywall up in the room. You'll be able to hear as I'm talking, you can hear that things are just really echoey and not so great sounding, especially for recording music. In this room, I need to have a desk. So that's a for sure thing. These speaker stands that I've Rocket KRK5s sitting on the desk. I knew that's not going to be a permanent solution. I just want to see what's the difference. So as you can see, it's just a big room with a lot of drywall. And as the video goes on, you can obviously hear there's a big difference that as I start adding panels, as we start hanging things and doing some room treatment, you can hear it gets better and better. Pleasing. So I do a lot of YouTube videos in this room and I want it to look nice, but you're also going to see things that are going to... A few things that did change in the long run. I don't have the boom arm with the SM7. So things did get sounding better here in this space. I still have the panels being hung. I don't have the big corner stacks that were in earlier. I just took those corner stacks and separated them. And then the big window that I thought would be useful for the YouTube videos, I've actually covered up with this thick moving blanket. So this curtain right here is actually a really heavy, and I mean heavy, moving blanket. It's at least maybe a ½ inch or an inch thick. It's very heavy and it's being hung up by some nails in the wall. I found that the moving blanket probably by far has made the biggest difference in this room. I'm also seated on a rug that we used to have, or a carpet that we used to have in our living room, and that's helped off with reflections. So the first thing I want to say is that obviously acoustic treatment is going to be beneficial, but I have to ask the question, what sort of acoustic treatment is beneficial to you? Not only talking about obviously the quality of the acoustic treatment, but a big factor is the price of the acoustic treatment. If you're going to tell me that I need to get a bass trap that is roughly 3 foot in size and I stick it up in the corners of my room, that's fine. But if you're going to sell it to me for hundreds of dollars, I'm left asking the question, is this a good use of the money? Now, another thing that I've talked about and I made a video on here on this channel is my reflection filter. So right here, you can see this purple halo reflection filter. Basically, it is like a half sphere that sits around my microphones. So anytime I'm recording vocals, I can sing into this microphone right here. And for all intensive purposes, it absolutely does make a difference. So as I've covered in this video here about the halo reflection filter, I went through and recorded a song in the bathroom, which is terrible. The bathroom, the garage of our house. So this is a 2-car garage with the garage door closed. There's absolutely no acoustic treatment in this garage. And as you can hear, as you will hear, that this halo reflection filter does make a difference. By day or by night, waking or sleeping, thy presence I light. And here's the garage with the reflection filter. Thou my best thought, by day or by night. If I am singing very loudly, then you're going to hear a lot more room tone than if I'm singing at a moderate volume. So maybe it's just pumping out less volume. If you have speakers set up in your home studio and you like to listen to things very loud, you probably will hear more reflections, and you'll definitely hear a more of an effect that the room is having on your system. So, but still going back to the question of, in that video that I covered the reflection filter, the whole question was, do reflection filters actually make a difference? And I 100%, after doing this video, you can go back and watch it. I do other tests like speech and talking. You could definitely hear that in the garage, when I put the reflection filter on the microphone, there's definitely less decay. There's less reverb coming from that tinny sounding garage. So it's definitely a worthwhile thing to do. Anyone starting off in a home studio or setting up something for recording, my first and foremost recommendation is that you try to use the stuff that you already have. Your blankets, maybe it's a blanket that you have on your bed, some sort of comforter, something that's really thick, it's going to go a long way. That's because these things take up a lot of space. So the more area, like square footage, you can take up with cushioned material, like a heavy moving blanket or a heavy comforter, something like that, the better off you're going to be. Now, to just further this point that I'm making about having a comforter, having a moving blanket, maybe even using a mattress that you already have at home to kind of construct your own acoustic treatment, here is a group called One Direction. Now, they put out this special. You can find this video online where they're recording vocals for their new album, and they're actually recording in a hotel. And this is something that they mentioned. They're stacking up mattresses to create a faux vocal booth. So let's take a look at that.
We're doing the recording process the same as we did last year. We set up 2 mattresses against the wall, and then a microphone, a laptop, a couple of speakers, and away we go. And that's how we did the last album.
Don't look at me like that. Actually do. Yeah, every time you do good, I would look at you.
Now, what's the point I'm making with this? Now, that's some sort of vocal booth. Like, that's the things that you see in the drum booths. I actually have some of those panels here. This is a panel that's originally made for like drum booths and things. This is from Clear Sonic. You can see it's a very thick material. This doesn't bend or flex. It's pretty heavy as well. I don't know if they're necessarily meant to be hung on the wall. I've previously had them hanging up here in this room. But the main point is that by taking a couple of mattresses, like twin size mattresses, you definitely can find twin size mattresses more affordable out there than you can acoustic panels and acoustic treatment. One Direction is recording their lead vocals. Like, their entire album is basically trying to get a lead vocal and then a lot of software instruments. You can definitely have similar results just by stacking up heavy stuff that you already have at home. And as you can see, they're moving from studio to studio. So these are some of like the biggest musicians and recording artists in the world, and they're just using the stuff that is laying around. Now I want to talk about the poor side of acoustic treatment. We're going to see several different YouTubers and also engineers who've also gone through the recording studio build process. And there's a theme throughout all of this stuff. I love watching people set up their rooms. In fact, that's why I do YouTube videos where I show people my studio setup. I like watching that myself. I like seeing the process. I like thinking about how are they going to decorate. There's kind of like an interior designer within every audio engineer, where I think that we like being in cool looking spaces. And that ties over with acoustic treatment. At the end of the day, if we're being honest, we want things to look like a recording studio. We want it to look like we know what we're doing, but that all comes at a cost. And what I've heard over and over again from especially the YouTubers going through and building a home studio or renovating their studio is there's always this theme of regret. There's a regret of this ended up costing way more money than I was prepared for. And there's also a regret on the diminishing returns. When you are ripping your house apart and trying to build things from the ground up, and you come into that acoustically treated space, it no doubt will sound better. I've not heard any of them say that it sounds worse than when they started. But at the end of the day, I think that we're left kind of wondering, like, did I just do this because of the process? So let's jump in and take a listen. If you haven't been to Eric Valentine's channel, it's called Making Records with Eric Valentine. Eric Valentine has awesome content. If you're into music production, if you're interested in learning how the professionals do it, highly recommend you go over to Eric's channel and hit the subscribe button. A reoccurring series of videos that he's put together is where he's renovating this barn that he has. Now, the barn is super lavish. Like, this is Eric's dream studio build. And there's one video in particular that we'll take a look at in a little bit, but here's kind of the finished control room, and we'll hear a little bit of how he's describing it.
So much of this stuff at the front of the room, like the speakers are this beautiful dark gray and the screens are kind of dark, that this light beige, I think the color is called sand, is too contrasty with the screens. And so I ordered a swatch of this fabric. It's the same fabric, just a different color of it. And I feel like this could look cooler at the front here, what it reminds me of. And that's really what that experiment was. You know, there's a family, the father wanted to have the kids play music, got them instruments, no lessons. Wasn't the approach I took this time. I went golden ratio and parallel walls, and here I am. So now, you know, when I'm, you know, and honestly, my vision was I'd put these things everywhere on the ceiling and all the walls and all over the place, and I'll be done. My control room's gonna sound great. Done deal. And that didn't happen.
Now, with Eric's stuff, he absolutely went through, and he's the type person, like, he's got so much engineering background that the way that his head works is he is going to solve this problem. But basically what he tried at first with these VPR panels, it was this fancy thing that was going to have like acoustic treatment, and then there's like this layer of like a metal sheet that will vibrate, and then another layer of acoustic treatment. And what it was supposed to do was to soak up all those vibrations, and that didn't pan out. So Eric is able to, I'm sure he didn't enjoy this whatsoever, but he did have some costs that was spent in trying to experiment with these acoustic treatments. Now, he went back to using his tube traps, which are giant cylinders. And as you'll see, it very much looks like cigarettes. But when he's sitting in his control room, there's got to be a part of you that's thinking like, this looks a little insane. And it is insane because I think that our goals in trying to have just a perfectly flat response, and it might be a little bit unwarranted for like 99.9% of us out there. If you're in a home studio like I am, I don't think there's any point in you going through and doing heavy demolition to your house so that your 10-foot by 12-foot bedroom with a bunch of drywall can have some sort of perfect sound. It's just not going to happen. You have to have large enough spaces that a lot of those bass frequencies can develop without bouncing around in the room. So I know going in that this home studio is going to be a nightmare if I'm trying to have everything be perfectly flat. Okay, so you got to learn how to compromise with your setup so that you can move on and do other things. Now, for me, I made a decision that I'm not going to use studio monitors in this space. So right now I have two pairs of headphones. I have these open back headphones from Shure. These are the SRH 1840s. And then I have the more traditional pair of Bayer Dynamic closed back headphones. Right here, DT770s, these are closed back. So when I'm recording music and I'm tracking, I want everything to be isolated. I'll put these on, and whenever I'm mixing or mastering stuff, I'll put the open back headphones on. These have a lot more bleed associated with them. I also have some in-ears that I use whenever I'm at the church, or if I'm doing something where I just need even more isolation, I'll use those. But basically, my assumption was that if I can learn how to use the headphones and get used to using headphones, think about how much time, energy, and money I could end up saving if I just remove the room entirely. Now, that's on the mixing side of things, okay? So my proposition is that if you haven't bought studio monitors, there is a benefit to having speakers in your room. Like when I'm editing YouTube videos, I don't always like to have headphones on. So it'd be nice to have a speaker or a Bluetooth speaker, something that I can just hear music coming from as I'm editing or whatever. But if you can learn how to use headphones, you can save so much money. Because here's what happens. You will spend, as I have before, many of my old YouTube videos, you can see I have the Atom A7X monitors. I have 2 of them. I had them set up on speaker stands. I had a supposedly acoustically treated room, and I had the exact same results when it came to recording and mixing music that I do today. So for me, I thought about, okay, I've spent $1,500 on studio monitors, and the first thing you're telling me is that, well, actually for those studio monitors to do what they're supposed to do, you need to spend this other money so that your room can be acoustically treated. And then when you start acoustically treating your room, you find out that, okay, I need this room to be bigger, so why don't I start knocking down walls? This is the rabbit trail. So I'm not making a case in this video that all acoustic treatment is terrible and that you should avoid it. Like I've said before, I think that the most reasonable solution for most of you out there is that if you are not a professional, if you're doing this as a hobby or on a home studio budget, you can definitely make your own acoustic panels, or you can purchase mattresses, you can get moving blankets, you could probably even get this reflection filter. All that stuff is going to go plenty far, because when you start looking at some of these packs, like these pre-made acoustic panels, it's pretty insane. So I actually also have a video on my channel. The acoustic panels that I've got hanging up on the wall, they're not crazy hard to make. I've got a video breaking down all that sort of stuff if you want to go that direction. But again, I'll tell you, the thing that made the biggest difference in this room is this moving blanket hung up on the wall, this reflection filter, and also the carpet that I'm sitting on. The acoustic panels are nice to have. I do believe that they're making a difference, but for somebody that is primarily recording and mixing with headphones on, the acoustic panels are probably helping me when I'm doing these YouTube videos. You're hearing the sound of this microphone attached to my camera, but there's so many alternative ways out there that you don't need to be spending the big bucks, because like you can see on Eric's deal, this whole construction, this remodeling of this barn, he put up all these panels, had the floating floor and everything that you could possibly want in a recording studio, and he still has a graph that is not perfectly flat. For most of us out there, if you're not doing this in a professional environment, if you're not getting paid to mix and record music on a regular basis, you're probably spending a lot of money where you should be spending your money and time on making more music. And that's the whole point. So there's a few others here. This is Cole Caparoon. He's recently remodeled his whole studio, and he essentially, if you watch this video, he says the exact same thing. This took a lot of time. It took more time than he was prepared to spend on it. He also did a lot of the construction all on his own. So all the woodworking and framing, that was all done by Colt. He was setting this up so that it can be an Atmos mixing environment. We'll take a little watch of this video.
For this space and had way more low end, the low end got less accurate. And then when I put the subwoofer in here, the Focal Sub 12, the low end got even less accurate. And the more we tried to dial it in and the more low end we shoved into the room, the less accurate the low end got. We spent 9 hours filming and trying to dial this subwoofer in before throwing in the towel and me being like, okay, I'm gonna have to fix this room. You guys never even seen any of that footage. Fast forward a month or two, I decide to put an Atmos rig in. This video is not about Atmos, so calm down. But once I decided I was gonna put an Atmos rig in, it was like, I'm not gonna fix this room, or I'm not gonna change this room once the Atmos rig is in. So if I'm ever gonna fix this stuff, I gotta do it now.
I encourage you to watch the rest of that video and all the channels that I'm showing here on this video today, because you really learn a lot. And I'm able to learn from people like Colt, because whereas he's been doing this for years and years and years, if I'm going into a big project, I can know kind of what my expectations are. I can expect that it will cost more than what I think it's going to cost. It will take longer than I think it's going to take. And the results will be better, but how much better do I want them to be? So he was saying that he's got these Focal monitors, which are some of the more expensive monitors that you can get out there. He's got these Focal speakers and he's got these subwoofers, which I think he ended up with 2 of them. And when he put the subwoofers in, it actually caused more problems than it was helping him. So that makes me think, again, I mentioned this in the comments of his video, Could you do this on headphones? I mean, if you've got headphones on, especially like with the Shure open back headphones that I've got, these headphones are able to produce low end frequencies. And because you're not pumping it into the room, you eliminate the space that you're in just by putting headphones on. So this is one of my favorite videos. This one is from Phineas. This is Billie Eilish's brother who recorded, produced one of her early albums, maybe even her latest stuff. But as he's going to show in this video, everything was recorded in like their house. And as you look around at how chaotic everything looks, you don't see a whole lot of acoustic treatment. You just see like a bed and basic furniture.
This was really important to me. To me, it's all about like immediacy. The way I want any home studio to function is like I want it all to be like as fast as I can think of an idea, I want to be able to articulate it. I recorded me and Billy standing in a bathroom and striking all these matches. I'll sit here and she'll be like right there, and I'll just bring the microphone over to where she is, and she recorded, I think she recorded pretty much every vocal for the entire album sitting on my bed, like with her legs crossed, which is kind of insane.
What's the point of that? Now, everyone shouldn't just go and try and make your room look just like theirs, but a bed, a mattress, a comforter, all these things acoustically speaking, if you're Billie Eilish and you're able to record your album like that, it should be fine without having acoustic panels.
Right.
I like that. So as you can see, whether you're Billie Eilish, Ed Sheeran, or One Direction, when it comes to being a professional recording artist, most of the time it's about the convenience and it's about the comfort over something that is scientific, like acoustic treatment or having perfectly acoustically treated spaces. Again, there's a question I asked you at the beginning of this video: is acoustic treatment ruining your life? And now with a little bit of some context of what I'm saying, do I think acoustic treatment is bad? No, I think it's great. And I think for most of you out there, there are some solutions, and maybe in this video, there's something that popped out to you where you're like, hey, I need to get me a mattress. I need to get a moving blanket. Maybe I need to look at a reflection filter like that. What's going to be your solution for dealing with your acoustically treated or untreated space? I don't think it primarily needs to be you raising a bunch of money, spending thousands of dollars trying to fit out a room like this, like a bedroom, where, let's just face it, it's not going to be perfect either way. Also, if you're looking at undertaking a huge project like renovating your garage or a barn or a basement, you might need to slow down a little bit and ask yourself, am I willing to spend more than what I'm being told this will take? Am I willing for this to take longer than what I'm expecting for it to take? And can I get results from my headphones rather than having to get studio monitors? Hope this video has been informative to you and you've gotten a lot from it. Hit the like and subscribe buttons, and I'll see you at the next one. Thanks for watching.